Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, our Europe editor, Matt Fry, is on the Serbian-Croatian border, one of Europe's front lines in the refugee crisis. He joins us from there now, live.
Well, John, welcome to the town of Sheed and the station in this town, a place where they probably hadn't really heard Pashto Arabic spoken until this year. But they're hearing plenty of that now because of the sheer numbers of refugees from Syria, Afghanistan, the occupied territories and so many other places passing through here, mainly on their way to Germany. This grimy, forlorn border town is the gate into the EU for the mass migration that continues unabated, even though winter is now approaching fast. Now, the last time I passed through here was during the Yugoslav wars in the 1990s, when the front line in a vicious ethnic war raged not very far from here at all. Who would have thought then that this would now be a major staging post of migration from the wars of the Middle East into Europe? Now, the Serbian policeman behind me just can't wait to wave the refugees goodbye, and doing so in a rather sort of sardonic and friendly way, keep saying goodbye, auf Wiedersehen, auf Wiedersehen. And then the Croatian policemen who receive them onto that train behind me and into the EU do so with a rather grim sense of duty. Now, they've just had elections in Croatia, which have brought a new right-wing government to power, in large part because of the fact that 350,000 migrants and refugees have passed through Croatia in recent months. So don't be surprised if Croatia ends up doing a Hungary sometime soon, which means putting up a fence or putting up new borders which weren't there before. Because week by week, the drawbridges into Europe are being pulled up for the thousands who are still determined to come day after day. And the most important row is, of course, brewing inside Germany itself, where Angela Merkel is besieged both by the right and her governing coalition for opening the floodgates to uncontrolled migration, and increasingly by the left for trying to nudge those gates shut. For Frau Merkel, this is a decisive and dangerous moment, and the desperate faces here at the station in Sheed have no idea that they're walking into a political firestorm that could see so many of them being sent back much sooner than they had thought. Well, despite the dangers and the worsening weather, waves of people are still making for mainland Europe to see the latest leg of their long journey from home by ferry. Our international editor, Lindsay Hilson, has watched many negotiate the risky, dingy crossing from the Turkish coast to the Greek island of Lesbos. Earlier today, she joined hundreds of refugees and migrants as they set off from the port of Mytilene for Piraeus, near Athens, on the Greek mainland. Watch.
Every step, they hope, brings them nearer their destination. Germany, Sweden, maybe the UK. They have a 10-hour ferry journey to Piraeus ahead of them. That's easy compared to the last voyage they did. Looking back from the deck to the shore, goodbye to the island. And suddenly a dinghy comes into view. This was them just 2 or 3 days ago on the perilous crossing from Turkey to Lesbos. A few hours wait, and then the Eleftherios Venizelos is on her way. Families are travelling together, or groups of friends. All summer long, the message has passed back down the line to Damascus, Aleppo, Kabul, Tehran. Now is the time. There's a lot of hope on this ferry. 2,500 people hoping that this isn't just a passage to Piraeus, but to Europe and a future they've dreamed of. Because in amongst the Syrian refugees fleeing war, I'm coming across Iranians, Bangladeshis, Moroccans, people who've seen Europe on the television. They think they're going to get a house, a car. They think there's going to be a better life. And their dreams are likely to be dashed. Where are you from?
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. Maybe they'll get in under the radar, maybe not. And where are you going?
Italy.
Italy?
Yes.
Why Italy?
Why? Job.
I found a civil engineer from one of the most dangerous places in Syria. travelling with her son, trying to join her husband in Sweden. But she's worried about family back home and doesn't dare show her face.
I hope if I stay so many years, I wish to work and to be good civil engineer in Sweden as well.
Downstairs, inside, they can relax. They have so much travelling ahead as they journey north, on foot, by train, by bus, and it all costs money. Best friends from Kabul on their big adventure, but they've only got 20 euros left between them, and they're headed for, well, neither seems to have a clue.
Now I don't have more money. I don't have a good idea where you go. Germany, London, and other countries.
Then, not exactly a reunion, but a friend from Iraq had asked me to look out for his friend who he thought was on the ferry. Excuse me. Are you Abu Fahdi?
Yes.
I am a friend of Sebastian.
Oh! Hello! Nice to see you. Now I call him.
It was all a bit much. He once worked for the Americans in Iraq. Then he was attacked by Shia militiamen and later quartered to the Islamic State checkpoint. And he's a Christian.
They didn't know I am Christian, but I have a cross in a car, on the mirror of the car. It was a cross.
Miraculously, his life was spared because a former colleague's son was amongst the militants. We went up on deck. He had to escape, he said. Others are after him now. So many stories, but this can't go on forever. Europe will not absorb all these wanderers. Surely the fences will go up soon, the drawbridge will be pulled, and word will pass back down the line. There's no more welcome. They want to keep us out.
And that was Lindsay Hilsum, our international editor, on a ferry between one Greek island and another. Now, the scene behind me, as you can witness, is still going on. There are still hundreds of people waiting in buses to get onto the train behind me that's going to take them across the border into Croatia and thus into the EU. From there, they go on to Slovenia, from Slovenia onto Austria, from Austria, they hope, onto Germany. It is an extraordinary journey when you think about it, and when you look into people's faces here, they are etched with fatigue, the sheer fatigue of having been on the road for so many weeks or months, having lived in a refugee camp before that for perhaps years, and not being entirely certain what awaits them at the other end, especially as the political climate gets more and more uncertain. Now, as we've just seen in Greece and indeed here, as winter sets in, migrants and refugees are still trying to reach Europe, the largest migration of people in a generation. But what does each step of the perilous journey entail? A new interactive video story from Channel 4 News uses all our coverage of the crisis to put you in the shoes of a migrant seeking asylum in Europe. Go to 2billionmiles.com, where we ask, if you were forced to flee, what would you do? Well, that's it from here in Šid on the Serbian-Croatian border. Let's now go back to John in London. John.
And apologies for the occasional transmission stutter there.
I've been